Hi there. Welcome to the Human Design Weather. This week, we're going to be talking about the gate two, and what you'll find out is what you can expect in terms of saving money, spending money, and how the resources are being allocated, because that's what the gate two is all about. Hi there. So I'm Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design, and in this week's Human Design Weather, we're going to be talking about the gate two. So this started on May 3rd, around midday. It goes until May 9th, and the Earth is in gate one, which is called creative contribution. So here we have the yin and the yang of the entire I Ching. The one is the more let's see if I can get this right. It's the more yang, the more masculine of the two, and the two is the more yin of the two, which is more feminine. The one is much more masculine, the two is much more feminine, and together they make basically the entirety of the universe. So these are two really important gates. And we do have both of them in the two is in the conscious sun and the one is in the conscious earth. And they do come right off the top and the bottom of the G center in the middle of the chart here, off the diamond. And again, this week we've got this sacral defined and the root defined, and it creates the channel 360, which is known as the channel of evolution. And so we do have the sacral and the root defined, and it goes until I think I said the 13th. And we're still in the middle of Mercury retrograde. And that goes for a little bit more. On the 5th, we have a full moon and also a solar eclipse. And so there's a lot going on astronomically this week. So watch for that. And if you're noticing up in the sky, you can still see Venus up in the western sky in the evening, which is pretty cool to see also. Okay, so with the gate two, we call it the allocation of resources. It's literally about saving and spending money and how you do that, and doing it as wisely as you can. So it's the direction of the self or the receptive in the original I Ching. It's literally about receptivity. It's that female energy. It's that, if you're the bee, you kind of come to the flower, and the gate two is the flower, right? Where the bee is coming to the flower. Receptivity is the primal base through which any response is determined. It's the root of action. But again, it's about that receptivity. It's about allowing. In fact, in quantum human design, they call it allowing. In the incarnation crosses this week, it's the cross of direction, the driver, and in the gate one, it's called the creative. Again, it's that very yang energy. It's that very much about energy and light and creation and making a contribution to the world. In the I Ching, they call it the creative or self-expression in the original I Ching. This is part of the individual circuit, and so is the two. And it's creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limitation. And so literally it's creating. Think of it as we come up with it, as we develop it basically from our G center, which is all about identity and purpose and making a creative contribution to the world. So it's a lot of creative energy, yes, but also the energy that keeps the world going, right? That keeps us all going. That it's that yin and yang balance that keeps us going. And so in the Gene Keys, entropy is the shadow, freshness is the gift, and beauty is the CD for the gate one. And in quantum human design, we call it purpose. So I couldn't decide from all these pictures, as you can see this week. Richard Rudd had a number of them. The one, I love the pink tulips, which says transformation is life. So it's all about changing and moving and becoming more aware, taking action. That's what this gift of orientation is about. We start out with the shadow of dislocation. The repressive side of that, or the fearful side of that, is feeling lost. The reactive side of that, the more anger-filled side of that, is a more regimented life. Think of, whether it's regimented by science or religion or economics or politics, any of that would give you a more regimented person who was, in fact, living out the shadow side of dislocation. The gift is orientation, and legacy means moving into a place where we are in balance with the yin and the yang, right? Where we're able to live our life in balance, live in the flow, live in a way that is, as he describes it, it can be taking action and then having new awarenesses, or the opposite, vice versa, where we have awareness and then we take different actions. And so it's being in that flow of life, knowing that things are going to be changing, knowing that things are up to us in terms of how we take the action, but it's also about self-awareness, right? It's also about realizing something outside of you too. It can be about self-awareness. It can be also about an outside awareness, right? We see something in life that doesn't seem right or that doesn't fit, and we change it. And the CD is unity, where it literally is about unity consciousness. We're all one, we're all together in this. And the, kind of the sooner we realize that, the better we'll all be, that we're all interconnected. And, whether we're talking about, again, about, politics or religion or the environment or economics, we're all connected. If something happens with the economy, if something happens with the debt ceiling, for example, in the US, it's going to affect the rest of the world. Make no mistake about it. And so we could take responsibility for that interaction, not just the debt ceiling, but about everything, right? About everything that we do. Everything we do can have an effect on somebody else. It's that butterfly effect, right? A butterfly flaps its wings in Thailand, and it's going to have an effect somewhere else in the world. And so just realizing that we're all part of this oneness, this unity consciousness, really makes a difference in the way we operate in life. He also says in the graphic, life is always delivering exactly what we need. And so that's a very optimistic take on it, right? Where we're realizing that the things that we need to survive, sunlight, water, food, resources, that's what the resources are about. It's not just money in the Gene Key 2. It's also about, it's all kinds of resources, whether it's water, whether it's air, whether, clean air, clean water, all the things that make our environment what it is. It's fairly important to, to see that it's all part of one. He also says in the bottom graphic, people don't need help, people need love. And so I thought that was a nice note. He also says in the quotes, it is because we now see ourselves as separated from nature that we feel this great collective fear, because we're a lot more uncertain when you're not in tune with nature, right? When you don't understand the seasons, when you don't understand how things are transformative within our own lives, when you don't understand the ebb and flow, right, of seasons and the crops and the things that are available to us. We're kind of spoiled in that most things are available to us all the time, every day of the year now. And so we don't see that there are seasons in the food we eat. And he also says the more you let go into the feminine yielding quality of this gift, the more universal power floods through you. And so it's allowing things to happen. It's allowing us to be in the flow, and it's allowing others to be in their flow as well, right? We don't need to control other people. Other people don't need to be fixed. We can't do the fixing. They're not here to be fixed. We're not here to be fixed. We're here to live our lives and to be in the flow. And the more we're in the flow, the better it'll feel. So we have a lot of personalities born in the Sun Gate 2, including George Clooney, who we'll be talking about, Karl Marx, Eva Peron. Interesting that, also known as Evita, interesting that there were, one or two people who were in positions of leadership, right? This is very much a leadership type of gate, coming off the G center. The 1, the 2, the 31, and the 7, all coming off the G center, are leadership gates. So if you have any of those gates, you're here to be a leader. You're here to take on leadership responsibilities, whether it's in your family or in your community. And these people did that. So Karl Marx, Eva Peron, Golda Meir. I don't think that's a coincidence, right? They're all political leaders. Also some singers, Adele, Billy Joel, Bing Crosby, and then and Tony Blair also is a political leader. So, not surprising that that leadership gate is showing up in these leaders. Okay, so let's talk about George Clooney. He's relatively well known, I suspect, in the entertainment world by most people. He was born on May 6th in 1961, so he'll be turning 62 years old. He was born in Louisville, Kentucky, and his mother was a beauty queen, and his father was a broadcaster, uh, TV and radio broadcaster. So good-looking parents, I guess he came from, and his let's see, aunt is Rosemary Clooney, who was also a beautiful singer from the 50s, 40s, and 50s. So he comes from a very good-looking pedigree. He's a projector with a 3-5 profile. He's the right angle cross of the Sphinx, which is one of the leadership, I would call them incarnation crosses. So he's been, as you may know, an actor, producer, director, entrepreneur. He's got 2 Oscars, 2 Emmys, a BAFTA, the Kennedy Center Honors, a few Golden Globes. What's interesting, I'll note, is that as I was looking at the dates and what's happened since he got married in 2014, I think he met Amal in probably around 2012. They dated not too long and then got married in 2014 and then had 2 children. Ever since he hooked up with Amal, his 2 was then connected to the 14, which is the other side of this channel. And the 2 is the allocation of resources. The 14 is about making money. And she actually has the entire channel. And I always love to see this in couples when they come together. It's because it's good for the couples, but it's also good for their net worth, basically, because it's since then that he has been producing and directing more, that he co-founded Casamigos with his friends Randy Gerber and another friend, and then was able to sell it for $700 million. And then there was another $300 million based upon sales, and it's still the second best, or the first best selling tequila and the second best overall of all liquors. And I can tell you, I've tasted it and it's delicious. It got quite a different taste than a lot of other tequilas that I've had. So he pretty much made a gold mine out of nothing. I mean, and I would suggest it's because of the connection with Amal. He'd been doing quite well on his own prior to that, but that connection doesn't hurt. So he does have that 2 up in the conscious sun, the 1 in the conscious earth. Right here, as you can see, coming off the G center, he is a projector with a lot of openness. The only thing he's got defined are the will center and the emotional solar plexus, and they're connected by the 4037, which show up in his unconscious nodes here. And and that's the only channel he's got. So it's the channel of agreements or the channel of community. You can, go with either title, either one works, but basically it's the 40, which is about aloneness, and the 37, which is about community. So the 40 is there to push you to, suggest that you be out in the community. So as a projector, he certainly would prefer to be alone sometimes, takes his time off, takes time between projects, takes time to be with the family, but he's also of the community when he's entertaining, when he's out. I read an interesting quote where he said that where he actually, and I wasn't surprised, as a projector, this can happen sometimes in childhood, illnesses or things that kind of give the projector a little bit of a rest, because it can be so tough being a child amongst 70% of the world being generators and manifesting generators. The projector kids have a tough time. A friend of mine recently, her projector child, who's just coming into her teenage years, was having a tough time with something physical, and she had to be out of school for 5 weeks. And so it's just a rest for the projectors. It's just a rest. They need that time off. sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And if they're pushed to do too many activities, because, what kid doesn't want to be on the teams, right, with their friends? If they get into too many of those, it can be a little too much. Anyway, so he, freshman year of high school, he developed Bell's palsy, and basically half his face was paralyzed. You might have heard of it. It was a symptom sometimes of getting COVID. And so the Bell's palsy um, affected his face, and it took 9 months to recover from it. So he basically missed his entire um, he was, in and out of classes for his entire freshman year. So that, as he said, didn't help, but it did help him to develop a good sense of humor about himself and about what he was going through, which has served him quite well. As you probably have heard, he's quite a prankster, loves to play jokes on other people, but he also doesn't take himself seriously and makes sure that he's, as he says, the butt of the jokes, the not making fun of other people, right? So he's very, I would say, sensitive to, with the head and the ajna open. He's got lots of great ideas and lots of information coming in. So up here in the head, he's got the 61, which is the thinker. He's always asking the question why. He did go to college. It was a Kentucky college. Served him well. He's actually got the 61 twice here in both Saturn and Jupiter, which means that he's supposed to learn the lessons from asking the questions, and then also it's part of the blessings that he'll receive, which he's probably receiving already. So the 61's a thinker. He's asking the question why. The 4 is all about the answers, getting possible answers. The 17 is about opinions. So he asks the question, gets some possible answers, and then forms opinions about it. And then with the 23, he's able to articulate those answers. And with the 56, he's actually able to tell a story about it. And he's become quite a renowned director and producer of many movies. And so whether he's working with Steven Soderbergh or the Coen brothers or the Ocean Eleven's franchises through Soderbergh, and or doing things on his own, buying up properties and creating, producing. The G, he's got the 13, which is the gate of really being trusted by other people to listen, and to listen well, and to understand what they're talking about. He's got the gate 1, which is that creative, making a creative contribution to the world, which he certainly is. The 7, one of those leadership gates, is all about being a democratic leader. So when he's asked to step in as a projector, he would want to be asked, to be invited in. He can be the leader if that's needed. The 2 is that gate of allocation of resources. So he's been good previously with saving and spending money. And then the 15 is the love of humanity, and so and the gate of extremes. And so as a projector, he's able to do, the 20-hour days on a set, right? And then take a few months off, do what he needs to do to get the project completed and working with his colleagues. And then he's able to take some time off, go off to Lake Como or, any of his estates, and have some time off. And he needs that time off. But the love of humanity is also about, kind of being a good guy. He might play pranks on people, but he's generally a good guy. He wants everybody to do well. He wants everybody to prosper, right? And he wants people to be well taken care of. In fact, one story which, I heard and then had to check out because it seemed so preposterous, is that when he got to be, I think it was right around the time he turned 50, but just before he started dating them all, he invited a dozen friends over to his home and gave them each a briefcase with $1 million in it. And just as a way to thank them. So nice to have friends like that. And so it just shows the kind of generous person he is. That's not the kind of story he wanted to get out, but he certainly was able to thank his friends for their support and help over the years. So he does, so open throat, right? He needs to be, he likes to talk, but better to be invited to speak. But he is invited to speak quite a bit. Open G, which means he likes his specific locations. For example, he likes being in Lake Como, and he is in Lake Como quite a bit. I think in London, I think they have a place in London. And so there are places that he really likes to be and he prefers to be, right? With that open G, that makes sense. Those are the places where he is comfortable being, and that's where he would then get a phone call, get a text, get an email from people about the next project. And off the spleen, open spleen, he's got the 44, which is about working. It's all about the business circuit, right? It's about working and being with people who are, or finding the people who can work with him, whether they're vendors or directors or other actors or, people in his life who are serving him basically, or helping the family. He's able to find those people. He does have the gate 32, which is also part of the business circuit, about having and creating and having businesses that succeed. The 60 is all about evolution, and he is one to evolve and grow, I would say. The 59 is the gate of, no surprise there. It's the gate of sexuality and intimacy. He definitely has that in spades. He's got the charisma of somebody who is, he's got that charisma that really just has people fawn all for him, basically. He's been a good looking guy ever since he was younger. And he just seems to be getting better looking as he gets older. Got the 55, which is all about spiritual abundance. So having all the things that one would want in life. So besides the 2 of allocation of resources, he's also got the 55, which is all about abundance, and the 41, which is creativity. So with all this openness, he takes in a lot of energy, especially on, sets on projects, and he needs to then dissipate that energy either each night or, on a weekend, or as he gets back to his own place. He's does of the will center, so he will push himself to do things, even if he may not want to. And of course, he's got the emotional solar plexus, but it's a relatively mild energy of the 4037. It's a relationship based energy, and so he probably hasn't even noticed much of an emotional wave, except when he's in relationship with either women or other people in his life. So happy birthday, George. I hope you have a great week. Watch what you're saving and spending. That's the thing that's going to come up this week. That's the theme. Would be saving and spending the money in the American Treasury. It could be saving and spending money in other countries that comes up as a possibility. So just watch for those economic developments. And because there are already a few banks that are having issues we saw this week, and just watch what happens, and be mindful of your own resources if that's appropriate. So have a great week, and I will see you next time. Be well.